Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. Well, a big event has happened in the world, a big sea change, if you will, in the Middle East in particular. And I'm glad it was on a Sunday because I'm around to cover it. I'm not in school, so I can cover this event. The Syrian president, who was the Syrian president since 1971, Bashir al-Assad has fallen. His regime has fallen. He they don't know where he is. His plane was shot down, and Syrian rebels. The rebels have claimed both the major cities in Aleppo and in Damascus, and they have taken over. Now, the reason for the title, what does this mean for U.S. Russian relations? Because many people know Russia is the long-time ally of Syria. Yes, he is, Aaron. Yes, he is. The regime has fallen officially. They don't know where he is exactly, if he's dead or not. But the point is, they took Damascus. So more than likely, he's dead. And Abu Muhammad al-Jalani has assumed unofficial leadership, as it were. But why I say this impacts Russia and the United States, Russia has been a longtime ally of the Syrians. They were allies with Hafez al Assad, his father, in the 1950s. Remember the tripartite aggression when Britain and France and Israel tried to overtake the Sinai Peninsula in the 1950s. The Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt and Hafez al Assad of Syria were allies during the 50s, and those three countries tried to retake over the Suez Canal from from the Egyptians. What was that time the Arab Republic, and Hafez al Assad, Assad's father, fought back, and and with help from the Soviet Union. So since that time, Russia and the Syrians have been in allegiance. And of course, during the Syrian civil war, it sort of was like a proxy war in a way between Russia and the United States in Syria, in a way. It's like a reignition of the Cold War during the Obama administration. So this is a blow to the Kremlin, actually. I mean, they're really feeling it because their ally has fallen. But other groups that will be feeling it now will be religious and ethnic minorities in Syria, because the group that has taken over, many of the rebels are Islamic fundamentalists, and not just Islamic fundamentalists, but Sunni Islamic fundamentalist. So Alawites, which was the group that Assad belonged to, which is a heretical Shia group in Syria. Druze, another heretical, group of that split off from Shia Islam uh, in Syria, that will also exist in Lebanon and in Israel as well. They'll be feeling it. Yazidis, of course, they've felt it since ISIS took over in Iraq in the early 2010s. They've suffered a lot of persecution. Christians, right, exactly. Aaron's correct. There could be a power vacuum there now. Christians, Christians are a vibrant and strong religious minority in Syria. Christianity has existed in Syria longer than it has existed in any other place. The first time it was ever called by the name Christianity was in Antioch, Syria. You have Melkite Catholics, you have Christian Orthodox groups. They'll suffer a lot of persecution if Islamists come into power. Everybody, secularist, but because Assad was an Alawite. Assad was a member of a religious minority community, not Sunni. So of course he was going to protect these religious minority communities. But now, as Aaron's saying, anybody could come to power. But I believe what we're seeing is the end of secular Arab regimes. You know, after World War II and after the Europeans left the Middle East, the French in Syria and Lebanon's case, and the British in the case of Iraq and Egypt, we saw the rise of these secular Arab regimes, like the Ba'athist Party, which Assad was the last remnant of Ba'athist rulers. Saddam was also a Ba'athist ruler. They weren't religious in nature. They were autocratic and dictatorial, but they weren't religious in nature. Even the Palestinian movement in the 50s and 60s was largely secular. From the 1980s and the 1990s and the 2000s and the 2010s, it's gradually become more and more religious, especially with the rise of groups like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and even, ironically, the Islamic Republic of Iran. These movements have become more and more religious. When they were secular, they persecuted the enemies of their regime, as dictatorial and autocratic regimes do everywhere in the world, but it wasn't based on religious discrimination. Now it is, or it will be, if Islamists take power. And also, this is going to anger Iran, because Iran was an ally of Syria's as well. Iranians are Shia, just like Syrians are. Not the same sect. Iranians belong to the Asharite sect, what they call the Twelver sect of Shiaism, but still, they had a common enemy in the radical Sunnis. Aaron says this could be scary times. Now, Israel's happy because Israel, over the past couple of months, Netanyahu already released a statement. Over the past couple of months, has been engaged in a war with since the death of Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon, has been engaged with Hezbollah, which Hezbollah also had a lot of backing from the Iranians and the Russians too. This could lead, hopefully it doesn't. President-elect Trump has already released a statement saying that America should stay out of it. Of course, he would say that because the Syrian civil war that began in 2011 with the Arab Spring and the U.S. involvement in said Syrian civil war was part of Obama's foreign policy, the Obama Doctrine, in helping to try and kind of a Wilsonian continuation of what the Bush administration was, to get rid of these autocratic Arab regimes that were largely secular. And he tried to do it with Bashar al-Assad, but it didn't work. He did it with Muammar Gaddafi and in Libya and Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. But we saw what happened in Egypt, and we saw what happened in Libya. Islamists took over, so it kind of backfired on Obama. But he was never able to he was never able to get rid of Bashar al-Assad. But towards the end of an era, if you will, now Assad's out of power. I guess his goals were accomplished under his vice president, Joe Biden. So, of course, Trump would repudiate that and wouldn't want to be involved. And plus, Trump is an isolationist. Trump believes that if we don't have to get involved in the world's affairs, then we shouldn't. That we should pull back and let them handle their own affairs. Only if whatever regime takes over in Syria directly threatens Israel, then Trump will want to get involved. I know he will. You know, you know what I mean. That's when he'll bend the knee. But other than that, he's purely isolationist. You know, his foreign policy, he doesn't have a necessarily a Trump doctrine. You know, an idea of foreign policy necessarily. A lot of Trump's rhetoric and a lot of stuff Trump talks about is more domestic stuff. All he'll say is whoever takes over for Assad now, these are really bad guys. You know, tremendously bad guys. I can't do a Trump impression, but you guys know how he talks. But there are others in the Republican Party, the neocons, the leftover from the Bush administration, that have this idea that they could use this as a pretext to attack Iran, especially if the United States allies with whoever takes over for Assad, and then the Iranians come in and Iran attacks them, and we have a pretext to go to war with Iran. The Republicans, the neoconservative wing of the Republican Party, have been trying to get rid of the Ayatollahs in Iran for the longest. You know what I mean? Since the Bush era, Lindsey Graham tried to push Trump into a war with Iran. You know, during his last term, and when he killed Qasem Soleimani, we thought, okay, maybe that's going to be the pretext for it. But then, you know, that didn't happen. So who knows what could happen now, man? Russia has her allies in other parts of the world, North Korea and China. You know, this could set off a chain reaction. If you study history, you know the exact same thing happened during the build-up, the arms race, the build-up to World War I. People often say that the direct cause of World War I was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo. And I guess that was a cause, but it was already a powder keg building. And all it took was that one event to set the spark off, and people were allies with each other. And similarly to President Trump, President Woodrow Wilson at first pledged to stay out of it, just like Franklin Roosevelt pledged to stay out of World War II, you know, until Pearl Harbor happened. So, I mean, could you imagine, guys? This is December 8th, 2024. If this is the beginning of World War III, then the beginning of World War II was only a day before, in 1941. So. Well, at least the U.S. involvement in World War II, because we know that World War II really began in September of 1939. But yeah, like Aaron's saying, this could be really scary times for America, for the world, for Russia. I don't really know we don't know how Trump's regime will do with war. He didn't really engage in a lot of military attacks or a lot of war stuff during his first term. So, you know, a couple of drone strikes in Syria here and there. He claims to completely have obliterated ISIS, but who knows? This thing could lead to the return of ISIS, you know, or something worse, far worse than ISIS. Because ISIS was worse than Al Qaeda, you know. Al Qaeda was child's play compared to what ISIS was doing in the mid 2010s. So. We'll have to wait and see what happens, guys. Thank you, Aaron, for contributing. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see my next videos coming out.